Honourable Member for Fisher.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I find it absolutely amazing that the member for Adelaide, just as one of the members of those opposite, stand here in this chamber and criticise the federal government for its own failings in the vet sector. We are where we are because of the appalling situation that Labor established when they were in government under the Gillard-Rudd years. And it is absolutely galling that they can stand here and complain that we didn't fix up their stuff-ups quickly enough. Mr Deputy Speaker, this bill is administrative in nature. It ensures the security of an important aspect of our national education system. Unlike the member for Adelaide, those on this side of the House do fervently believe that the vet sector is a very, very important part of our educational sector. I am a product of the vet sector.
Order. The honourable member for Macarthur on a point of order.
Yes, Mr Speaker. Under Standing Order 55, I wish to draw your attention to the state of the House.
Ring the bells. Quorum required.
There's one member at the front there.
There's none.
55.
Including me. Quorum present. I call the honourable member for Fisher.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Clearly, I was landing some blows on the opposition, and they wanted to silence me. But I will not be silenced, Mr Deputy Speaker. I will not be silenced talking about the shortcomings of the vet sector when the opposition were in government. Mr Deputy Speaker, before I said earlier that I'm a product of TAFE. TAFE has a great meaning to me. I did my carpentry and joinery apprenticeship as an apprentice carpenter at TAFE, Holmes Glen College, a fantastic institution. And there is a lot of work to do in this sector, absolutely undeniable. But this is a very, very important sector not just in our trades. But interestingly, when we look at the importance of the vet sector, we can see that I think unfortunately our community has moved into a culture where there's an expectation that young people will all go to university. And I think that there's a culture that has pervaded in our society that if you're anybody important or if you've got any educational ability, you will go to university. And, Mr Deputy Speaker, I think that's a grave injustice. Absolutely. A grave injustice to our young people. We've seen that, I believe, since Julia Gillard was Prime Minister in this country, when she changed the funding models for our higher education sector. When I'm out and about in my electorate and I talk to people, I can see that many people say to me that when they hear about someone who isn't going to university but is doing a trade, and they say, "Oh, you know, didn't they have the intelligence?" In a nice way, they might say this. Didn't they have the intelligence to go to university? Well, my response to that, Mr Deputy Speaker, is that if you go to TAFE, if you do an apprenticeship, chances are, over the life of your work life, you will earn more money as a tradesperson than what you will if you've gone to university and done a business degree or an arts degree. We are doing our young people a grave disservice by perpetuating this myth that all young people should go to university. Doing a trade gives young people the ability to be able to travel around the world and to take those skills that they've learnt all over the world and to start up their own businesses and to provide for the families of their future. I know some of the most successful people in business that I know have never gone on to university. Many of them are school dropouts, but they went on and did a trade in one thing or another and became very successful in their own businesses. And we ought never lose sight of that. 74% of new university graduates who wanted to find a job, a full-time job, do so. 74% of new university graduates. But 77% of vet graduates, so 3% better, 77% of vet graduates find a full-time position once they graduate. The median income of new university graduates is $54,000, whilst vet graduates is $56,000. So even when you start out, and I say to kids all over the place, young people, you don't have to go to university. I'm not just trying to dissuade them from going to university. If that's what they want to do, great. But you can make an important contribution to our society by going and doing a trade. And chances are you will earn a very, very good living. Now, we are seeing a great shortage of tradespeople in this country, and that is a matter of great concern to me as a builder. We are going to experience a great shortage of skilled trades in this country over the next 10 to 15 years if we don't do something very soon. So for those young people who are thinking of doing a trade, make hay while the sun shines, I say. Go and learn a trade. And because of the skill shortages, there is every prospect, every possibility that you will be able to earn very, very good money into the future. Now, I'm going to return to some of the failures in the vet sector. And these failures are a direct result of the Rudd-Gillard-Rudd failures in the vet sector. On the Sunshine Coast, my electorate of the seat of Fisher, and around Australia, in the past year we've seen the impact of major failures by providers of vet and the necessity of proactive intelligence gathering by the Australian Skills Quality Authority. Last December, Smart City Vocational College, which had campuses in Caloundra and Maroochydore, went into administration, leaving more than 300 staff without jobs. It failed, in part, apparently, due to the withdrawal of vet fee help student loan funding for non-compliance with the Higher Education Support Act of 2003. In particular, the college did not have enough appropriately qualified trainers and assessors for the number of students enrolled, sufficient learning resources or enough facilities to provide the face-to-face training it had promised to enrolled students. The fallout continues. Days ago, ASQA suspended the registration of Cooloola Training and Counselling Service in Gympie, known as Quest College, which was a subsidiary of Smart City. An audit of the college had shown a critical level of non-compliances that, in addition to intelligence received regarding recent actions of the provider, led ASQA to the view that immediate action was necessary. Once again, this provider did not have enough qualified trainers and assessors, and it didn't have sufficient learning resources with regards to strategies, locations and modes of service delivery. In May of this year, Careers Australia, one of the largest vet providers in the country, with 15,000 students, the trainer of a number of Sunshine Coast residents through their Brisbane campus, also went into administration. This followed a series of scandals, including being forced to pay back $44 million in loans claimed for students who did not start or complete their courses. The ACCC also found that Careers Australia had made false or misleading claims to prospective students. They offered inducements like laptops and iPads and failed to tell others of the debts they would incur. This included signing up 80 Indigenous students in the remote community of Yarrabah and not telling them that they would even incur any debt. The ACCC took action at the same time last year against 4 further private colleges in New South Wales. The Australian Skills Quality Authority needs this additional funding to be proactive in intelligence collection and data analysis to intervene sooner to protect students from poor quality providers. Mr Deputy Speaker, I want to debunk some of the myths that the member for Adelaide spoke about earlier. Apprenticeship numbers went into freefall in 2012 after the then Labor government cut $1.2 billion from employer incentives. In total, under Labor's National Partnership Agreement, apprentice numbers halved. The biggest ever annual decline in apprentices in training occurred in Labor's last year in office between June 2012 and June 2013. Apprentice numbers collapsed by 110,000 or 22%. Mr Deputy Speaker, the Turnbull government values vocational education and training sector. It's created $1.5 billion Skilling Australians Fund. The fund will create an extra 300,000 apprentices over the next 4 years. It represents nearly triple the funding allocated to training than was provided through Labor's National Partnership Agreement. This government is providing $60 million for industry specialist mentoring program to support those apprentices who need it most to complete their training, and that is for some 46,000 apprentices. There will be 50,000 pre-apprenticeship places. I put my hand up, Mr Deputy Speaker. I'm proudly one of those who did a pre-apprenticeship. Pre-apprenticeships give young people the opportunity to dip their toe in the water and see what it's like before they commit, and it is a fantastic way of putting your toe in the water and learning a little bit about your trade before you commit. However, vet sector failures continue, unfortunately. We can and we must do more. The Assistant Minister for Vocational Education and Skills announced this month a major review of vet sector legislation to be conducted by Professor Valerie Braithwaite of ANU. The report will be available by the end of this year. The bill before the House will ensure that ASQA can continue to collect fees and charges that it needs to conduct its important intelligence collection and data analysis. We need that work because we need a well-regulated sustainable and high-quality vet education sector into the future. And I'd like to also just commend the Assistant Minister on the work that she's done on this.